Okay, today I'm going to talk about my pet peeves. My pet peeves are a very specific set of pet peeves that derive from Destiny 2's The Crucible. What is the Crucible, you didn't ask? Well, the Crucible is a kind of mosh pit that tests Guardians in single combat between using super abilities and using hand-to-hand combat or even the weapons they carry. So this is part of an online shooter game, and that can create many kinds of problems. It can create what's called sandbox problems or time to kill problems, or even quality of life problems inside the game. That can derive from supers or how the heavy ammo spawns, and that's just a few of those things. So first, let's talk about what's called heavy ammo. Heavy ammo is probably the most controversial aspect of the Crucible because right now it spawns so rapidly and so frequently that the game becomes a test of who can grab the heavy ammo first and who can hold on to it the longest. Some people question if using a heavy weapon is even a show of skill or is a show of how bad the state of Crucible actually is. There are many broken heavies in the game. There are typically what's called a grenade launcher or a rocket launcher. There are a specific set of what are called exotic ones that are very rare and have very specific set of perks to make them broken. One, for example, is called the Truth. Another one, for example, is called the Wardcliff Coil. They're both very top tier exotics that need to be reworked, and they ruin the quality of life for Crucible players. Next, we're going to talk about what unbalanced classes are. There's in Destiny, there are 3 classes. You have a Titan, a Warlock, and a Hunter. And each one of those classes comes with unique subclasses. And a lot of them subclasses get to be very broken because they can extend their time. They can extend their time in their super by getting kills. For example, the Titan the solar subclass has a throwing hammer that he can throw at enemies, and as long as he keeps picking up, he has an infinite melee. So his melee will never expire as long as he keeps picking up that hammer, and it's a 2-hit kill. Next we have another Titan aspect, and it's called the shoulder charge. And it's a 1-hit charged melee that has lots and lots of aim assist, and it cannot be avoided. And it will always be a 1-hit kill unless the said person being hit is inside a super. But even then, they can be 1-hit with a specific set of exotic boots. Next, we're going to talk about what's called the handheld supernova. This is part of a Warlock subclass. It's on the Void subclass. And the handheld supernova is a charged grenade that can be charged around any corner. It can even create an impenetrable barrier while charging it, and that you will not receive damage while charging it. But after you've charged up this said grenade and throw it at enemies, it will always be a 1-hit kill unless you are very lucky and are able to avoid it, which most people can't do because it's already thrown at them when they've met the person. Next, we're going to talk about super abilities. This is what I was talking about earlier. So in the game, there are a handful of what are called roaming supers, which means you run around with the super active, and getting kills inside this roaming super extends the time of the super. The Striker has one called the Fist of Havoc. The Warlock has one called the Dawnblade, and the Hunter has one called the Spectral Blades. When you're playing, most times by these said supers, you will be killed multiple times by the same guy in the same life. So you yourself may get killed 3 times by the same person who's in their same life with the same super. And that's just you're just one person. You gotta think, you're playing with a team of 6 people who are being killed by the same super. And it's super hard to kill a super because they have a ton of overhead shield and they have a ton of health while they're in the super. And while they're getting those kills, all you're doing is extending their time. So what this creates spawn point problems. So most people who are using these roaming supers are actively seeking the spawn point so they can farm them, because people who spawn in can't move right away and they're unaware right away. They don't have that instant move time. So that means the person in that roaming super is going to be looking for them so they can instantly kill them while they're unaware or just loading in, and extend their super indefinitely. Typically a super only lasts 20 to 30 seconds without these buffs, but now say ones that are getting these buffs and are being extended are lasting well over a minute. Some of them you can make last up to 2 minutes, which that is ridiculous inside of a game like the Crucible. 2 minutes is a huge turning point in any match in any game of the Crucible. In conclusion, the Crucible is a very fun and a very exciting place. It's very fun for new players to jump into. the workers of Destiny have created a very unique dynamic inside the Crucible, but it has many issues that turn away, even for starters, the new players and also veteran players. I myself am one of the veteran players, and every once in a while I get really frustrated with it and just leave it because how broken it gets sometimes. It just needs work. It's not a perfect thing. It needs work. It's got a lot of sandbox problems, a lot of time to kill problems, especially a lot of the heavy ammo and super and class abilities I have mentioned. Those are just a few. There's many problems inside the Crucible, but those are just a list of those few. And that concludes my presentation.